This is a presentation of BSRN, Box Studios Radio Network. The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here is your host of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for February 20th, 2025. This is season 14, episode number 45, and episode number 484 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Yes, indeed. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for tuning in. We got a great show planned for you. Kind of like a little bit of a surprise guest. I did not announce it. I did not give you guys a heads up on who was coming on today or this podcast, and that's okay. But it is the owner of the Binghamton Black Bears, Andreas Johansson. Brought him on to talk about some positive things. The last time I had him on the show, we were talking about injuries and safety within the league. And this time we brought him on to talk about, of course, the Tyson Kirkby goal, the promotion, and the NHL.com story, and the ESPN top 5 list, which obviously is a very good thing. And the league needs to kind of embrace and be happy with that fact. So I had a nice long conversation. Matter of fact, I think me and Andreas talked for about an hour and 20 minutes. You guys are going to hear about 40 minutes of that. So there's about 40 minutes that we kept to ourselves, just having a nice conversation, talking a little bit about life, a little bit about the league, and some other things as well. It was a very good conversation that I had with Andreas Johansson, obviously the owner of the Binghamton Black Bears, somebody who has kind of looked to possibly become a part of an ownership group within a new team, but can't find a good location. And I know the minor pro hockey guys have a new blog, which I think Christian is the one that is kind of maintaining that blog right now, and he talked a little bit about expansion and where the league is looking, maybe where they should look into the future, and it's a very good article. You should definitely check it out. I skimmed through some of it, and I plan on reading the rest of it a little bit later on tonight, but obviously he talks about Topeka and talks a little about a couple cities in Texas as well that could be potential sites for the FPHL, which will be very, very interesting. So I wanted to start off today to talk a little bit about the standings right now. The Binghamton Black Bears right now are 34-4-1 with 98 points, right? We all know this. You guys have all been paying attention to pretty much anything that I put out there when it has to do with the Black Bears. So you know their record already. You know that they're number 1 in the Empire Division. But they are 34 points to the good on the Danbury Hat Tricks. The Danbury Hat Tricks are in second place right now. Basically, second, third, and fourth place are only separated by 4 points in the Empire Division. So, which is pretty good. The Motor City Rockers, who we actually will be seeing this upcoming weekend here in Binghamton, New York, they only have 37 points, right? And they have 13 wins on the season. And 37 points. I mean, it's 61 point difference between the Rockers and the Binghamton Black Bears. It's pretty crazy, the numbers that the Black Bears have done. Now, the Black Bears have scored 196 goals this year, and 105 they've given up. That's a difference of 91 goals. It is very impressive. It's the best in the league by far, pretty much by 30 goals. That's how much better they're doing. Now, the Carolina Thunderbirds, they have only scored 137 goals to the Black Bears 196. The 137 is the best in the Continental Division. I will say that the Continental Division just does not score as much goals as the teams in the Empire Division. Now, the Empire Division, 3 of their teams in the Empire Division have scored more goals than the Continental Division's Carolina Thunderbirds, who is number one in that division, right? So if you look at Danbury, they've scored 158 goals this season. Watertown has scored 160. Now, Port Huron has scored 133, only 4 behind the Carolina Thunderbirds. So there are some pretty good scoring that happens here in the Empire Division. On the flip side of that, the Carolina Thunderbirds have excellent goaltending, excellent defense, only given up 78 goals. Athens has only given up 86 goals, where the Black Bears have given up 105, and then 133 for Danbury, 129 for Watertown. And the Port Huron Prowlers, probably one of the better defensive teams in our division, along with the Black Bears, have only given up 115 goals. But their goal differential is 18, so they don't score a lot, but they also don't give up a lot. So just wanted to kind of go through the standings a little bit and talk a little bit about some of those things that are developing. These are stories within the divisions and within the league that are kind of happening right now, where the Black Bears are just, outscoring their opponents by so much. I mean, their goals per game is ridiculous, right? I mean, we're talking about 5.0 goals for their average. That's just nuts. They are on a 13-game winning streak, of course, as everybody knows. The Carolina Thunderbirds are on the next best winning streak, and that's 10 games. And then Athens has a 9-game winning streak. And then after that, Watertown is finally starting to kind of turn the corner, right? They started off the season really, really well. Watertown was a really good team in the beginning, and then they kind of went through their Housewives of Watertown kind of phase where everything kind of just blew up, and it kind of blew up in social media, kind of blew up out there in the media, so to speak, right? And then they just kind of faltered. But they started to turn it around. They're starting to win games. Justin Coachman has, done some good things with the team. Trevor Lord is being the leader that he normally is, and they're starting to turn a corner. And I think they're turning the corner at the right time of the season. Okay, so and then of course Danbury is always good. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10 games. So Danbury's been on a good run these past 10, 12 games themselves. So that's a look at that. Of course, I haven't talked about Danville and the whole, them being 132-3, and they've got the longest losing streak in professional hockey. It is what it is. There's not much you can really do about that. It's a team that's really snake bitten, kind of like, I'll tell you right now, guys, there's a guy on our team, the Binghamton Black Bears, who's a little snake bitten as well, and that's Cam Clark. I saw some of the frustrations coming out with Cam on Saturday when he was trying to get some shots. Now, Cam Clark has scored 14 goals for us this season, right? But it doesn't feel like he's scored in a while, right? Well, if we take a look at his game logs, it has been a while since Cam Clark has scored a goal for the Binghamton Black Bears. So you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It has been 10 games since his last goal on January 18th against the Watertown Wolves. That's the last time Cam Clark has scored a goal. Now, he's gotten a few assists. He's probably gotten 2, 3, 5 assists in these last 10 games, right? But he has not scored a goal. He's a little snake bit. And sometimes when that happens, you start clenching your stick a little bit more. You get a little bit more frustrated, a little bit quicker. I hope Cam breaks out of it, because one of the best things about the Black Bears last year and this year going into the playoffs, or, as we get to near the end of the season, is that usually they have all three lines firing and being able to score goals. And Cam Clark is going to be a big part of that. He's an important part of that. Now, if you go back all the way to December 7th, he had a hat trick. So at one point, he had a hot hand. Now, to defend Cam Clark a little bit about not maybe being able to score goals, he has been all over the lineup as well, right? He has gone anywhere that Coach Sherwood has asked him to go. And maybe he's not getting the most minutes being on the third line, but he's still out there. He's still making an impact in other ways, too. So you have to look at it that way. But a little snake bitten for Cam Clark. I did notice that in Saturday's game, and he was a little frustrated. He slammed a stick on the ice when he missed a kind of an open netter. And you kind of can tell when a player is kind of feeling that way. Right. But of course, other guys on the team are picking it up, and he does other great things on the ice. And so you have to think about that as well. So I want to get to, obviously, the Andreas interview. So let me get through our must reads, and then we'll get into all the other stuff that's happened this week and preview the Motor City games as well. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to, and please subscribe. And thank you very much, everybody who's subscribed. And our numbers are going up. They kind of gradually go up, which is okay. As long as they're going in that positive direction, that's good. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search for Power Play Post Show. Check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey information and curiosity. And on this edition of the Power Play Post Show, Black Bears owner Andreas Johansson, great 40 minutes. You guys are going to hear about a lot of different things, including how ticket sales have done, and obviously the Tyson Kirkby stuff, and how great the team is playing this year. I get Andreas' thoughts on that. The Black Bears have made a trade sending Khade Henry to the Monroe Moccasins for cash. So basically, there's financial considerations, but basically they got some sort of financial, return from the Moccasins. This was completely a roster move, as the Black Bears are close to using up all 14 of their 4-game PTOs and needed to trim the roster down to keep it as close to the 19-man roster. Head coach Brant Sherwood had this to say about Khade. Now, you would have heard this or read this on our Facebook page, but I think these are all this is interesting. Khade is a fantastic player, but he wasn't getting the minutes he probably deserves. It's simply hard to crack our lineup with our team being so deep and talented. He worked his tail off for us, and I appreciate everything he's done for the Bears. The Moccasins are getting a great player who will thrive in a top 6 role. Best of luck to Khade. We know he's going to crush it down south. End quote. It's true. I mean, I never saw Khade Henry take a night off on the ice. I think he worked hard. I think he did pretty much everything that Coach Sherwood asked him to do. But again, you have a depth chart, and unfortunately, I think Khade, I wouldn't say Khade was at the bottom of the depth chart. I would say that he was probably one of the few guys down there. And sometimes you have to, take a look at, like, the position of the player and where he's going to play. Chris Mott, I think, the reason why Chris Mott maybe wasn't the guy to get traded away was because his natural position is center, and he's played, I think, a pretty good role at center. And I think the one thing that you can really honestly say about the Binghamton Black Bears is that they're deep down the middle, okay? When you have Tyson Kirkby, you have Kyle Steffen, you have Josh Fletcher, who is a pretty good faceoff guy and just a good center, just in general. And then you have Chris Mott. But then at the same time, you could put Ramakers and or CJ Stubbs in the center position role, and you're fine. That's pretty good. They're pretty deep there. And I think you can throw a couple of those guys out onto the wing like you do with CJ Stubbs, like you do with Scott Ramakers at times. And that's where Khade Henry probably didn't match up there. He isn't going to play center. And I think the most important role of a forward is a guy who can play center and or wing. It's just invaluable that you can have guys that do that. And without a doubt, Khade's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's just not a center. He's not a natural center who can fill that role like those other 5 guys can. All right. So this is likely not the last move the Black Bears will have to make, as Kyle Steffen and Dal Dion both are on the 15-day IR. And when they return, the Black Bears will have to make at least one more cut, which is not completely, totally correct. A big thanks to Khade Henry for his time with the Black Bears and coming on the Power Play Post Show. Here is the updated roster information after Khade Henry was traded to Monroe. At the moment, not including Tasto or Savoni, okay, because they're on loan, the Black Bears have 20 players under contract. Only one player is on the IR, that's Kyle Steffen, as Dale Dion came off the IR on Wednesday. Okay, Emerson Emery is on a 4-game PTO, so that puts us active on the roster is 18 players to standard player contracts and 1 PTO, okay, which is okay. The league roster limit size is 19, right? So right now we're at 18 plus 1, that puts us at 19, but that plus 1 for the PTO for Emerson Emery doesn't count towards the active roster of 19. The Black Bears will be able to activate Kyle Steffen once the IR stint is over, and we will still be within the roster limits. Decisions that need to happen is if Blake Tosto or Cameron Cervoni decide to come back to Binghamton, or the Black Bears run out of 4-game PTOs and they say they want to I'll be honest, if Dale Dion works out, Emerson Emery is going to move probably back to the forward position because he's too valuable. He's played defense. He's put himself into a position where he's a utility guy that you just can't get rid of, okay? So I truly think that Emerson Emery has won his position to stay here. He's on a 4-game PTO right now. We'll see what happens, but I don't think you get rid of a guy, especially going into the playoffs, and not have somebody who can also play D and forward. So we'll see how this works out and everything. But at the same time, you have Cam Cervoni if he comes back, depending on how he gels with the team, if he does come back. We'll see what happens there. I haven't heard anything. I know Blake Tosto's told me he's coming back to the Black Bears. We'll see if that actually does happen. Now, forward-wise, the Black Bears have Austin Thompson, Tyson Kirkby, and Donald Oliveri. When Don's on and playing with the team, that is without a doubt he is He's the top-line guy on the right side of Tyson Kirkby, while Austin Thompson plays on the left side. Now, Kyle Steffen, when he's not on IR, will be the second-line center. Gavin Yates would be on the left side of him, and C.J. Stubbs will be on the right side. Now, with Kyle Steffen out, you can either put Chris Mott in that position. You could bump up Josh Fletcher. It really kind of depends, right, on what you want to do. Scott Romakers can play center as well, and I think he's played a few games this year at center. Now, on the third line, you would have Scott Romakers, Josh Fletcher, and Cam Clark. I think probably flip Romakers and Clark, so Clarkie on the left side and Romakers on the right side. All right. Then your extra forwards are Chris Mott, Emerson Emery, who's on the 4-game PTO, and Zach Sirota. Okay. I think Zach Sirota has also, I think he was a little bit ahead of Khade Henry in the depth chart as well. There's just something about Zach Sirota. I think he's going to develop into a guy who could be a second-line winger next season for either a team here in Binghamton or, a different team. Defenseman-wise, nothing's really changed here except for you can swap out Emerson Emery and Dale Dion with each other, whatever. But Dakota Bond, Dan Stone is your first, obviously, D pair. One or both of those guys are going to win awards again this year. I really truly think so. Dan Stone is just a solid defenseman, and you got to give credit to a guy who can just play solid D. Right, a guy who allows his D partner to go up and move the puck. And Dan's starting to move the puck a little bit more comfortably this year as well. Jesse Anderson and Dan Weber are your second-line pairs at the moment. Dale Dion, Nicholas Poirier. Now, you could make a swap. You could put Poirier up with Jesse and put Weber down with Dale Dion. I think you can swap any one of those 4 guys out. But I really like the last 4 or 5 games when Jesse and Dan have played together. Obviously, just they gel well together. They know each other really well, being on the team together for the last year and a half. And I think Jesse Anderson can just play with anybody, right? I think you can put anybody on there, and Jesse Anderson's just a smart, smart player. And he probably doesn't get credit enough. I don't think people probably talk about, his play, but I think his hockey IQ is just really good. He just knows where to go, where to be, and then he also knows when to kind of pull the trigger on the pissed off, vicious, kind of angry Jesse Anderson, right? He just knows the right time to do that, which is pretty cool. I think Nicolas Poirier, again, I want to say it, without an excellent pass from Nicolas Poirier to Tyson Kirkby, that whole thing is not possible. Got to give credit to the young defenseman. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way as I do about that pass, but it's huge. It was important, and I think it just needed to be talked about again. He's done such a good job. I think Nicolas Poirier is the one rookie out of all the rookies that has quietly proven himself in his position. That's simple. Zach Sirota scoring goals, and Chris Ma, I think, has had good moments and okay moments this season, but I think he's also turning into a solid centerman who can be relied on when need be. He can be the 10th forward, and he could just fill in anywhere, right? And I think that's very, very important. Okay, so netminders, obviously, Connor McAnanama, Nolan Egbert. Connor's got over 20 wins now. Nolan's got 13 wins. It's just the best tandem right now in hockey. Nolan, even when he gives up some goals, he literally always keeps you in games, period. So loaned out to the SPHL is Blake Tosto and Cam Cervoni, as we already mentioned. I don't know if Cam's going to come back, and I know Blake has talked to me about it, but again, we don't know if it's going to happen. All right, the Black Bears host the Motor City Rockers on Friday night and Saturday night. Both nights are being promotional nights. Friday is Superhero Night and Superman-designed jerseys, which got some mixed reactions on Facebook, but it is what it is. Some things are not everyone's cup of tea. And then Saturday night is ASHA night. Now, some people may not know what ASHA stands for, but it stands for the American Special Hockey Association, a nonprofit organization that helps people with disabilities play hockey. Their headquarters are now in Binghamton, New York, since Jen O'Brien, who, if you don't know who Jen O'Brien is, Jen O'Brien has been a part of the local Binghamton hockey world for a long time now. And I know during the Senators' Day, she was a big part of the giving back to the community, and she worked closely with the Sens and some of the Sens players on some of the charities that they believed in. She took over as the executive director in 2020. And so this is an important one for Jen and for that organization. I don't know if there's jerseys at this moment for Saturday night, but I haven't seen anything. I'll just say that right now. The Black Bears are 34-4-1 with 98 points in first in the Empire Division, while the Rockers are 13-22-2 with 37 points in fifth in the Empire Division. The Black Bears and the Rockers have played each other 3 times so far, with the Black Bears winning all 3 games. Now, the first game was December 21st. It was a 4-2 win in Binghamton, and if you remember correctly, Tyson Kirkby scored a shorthanded goal. That was the 4th goal of the game. It was a shorthanded goal by Tyson. C-Mac got the win in that first game. In the second game of the season, January 10th, it was a 4-2 win again for the Binghamton Black Bears. And there was 3 first-period goals for Ando, Bond, and C.J. Stubbs, right? So Binghamton scored quick and early in the first period against them. That was in Motor City, or in Fraser, Michigan, actually. And C-Mac also got the win in that one. Now, the following night on January 11th, the Black Bears and the Rockers go to a shootout, and the only person that scored in the shootout was C.J. Stubbs. Eggy gets the win in that game, and C.J. Stubbs gets the shootout goal. The Black Bears win that one 5-4. So the Black Bears have scored at least 4 goals in every single game against the Rockers, and then they get the shootout goal, obviously, in the last game they played. Now, these will be the last 2 games this regular season that the Rockers and the Black Bears will play, and obviously both of them will be here in Binghamton on Friday and Saturday. The Rockers are led by Eli Rivers still, like they were the last time we played against them. He's got 16 goals and 20 assists for 36 points in 37 games played, so he's just under a point-a-game player. He's got 1 shorthanded goal and 1 game-winning goal on the season. Josh Colton, who was one of their defensemen, probably one of the better defensemen in the league, even though he doesn't have hefty numbers like Dakota Bond. He's still a pretty good defenseman. He can move the puck, and he's a good playmaker for the Rockers. He's got 9 goals, 16 assists, and for 25 points in 37 games played. He's got 7 power play goals, and he's got 2 game-winning goals, so he's very important for this team. On the power play, 7 of his 9 goals he scored with the man-up advantage. Chris Corrigan, who just came over on a trade from Monroe, he's got 6 goals and 15 points in 6 goals, 15 assists for 21 points in 29 games played. He's got 1 game-winning goal. That was a part of on February 13th, moccasins to the Motor City Rockers. Chris Corrigan traded to Motor City along with Brad Ritter for future considerations. Rico Gonzalez obviously is the goaltender. He just came back. He's 8-12-2 with a 3.73 goals against average and a .922 save percentage. This is a guy that Coach Sherwood, I think, likes to play against because he's a good goaltender, and he just thinks this kid's got something. Now, if he was on a better team than Motor City, I think that record would be a little bit better, and maybe the goals against would be a little bit less. But we'll see how that goes. The Black Bears are led by, of course, Tyson Kirkby, 27 goals, 39 assists, 66 points, 32 games played. So he's over a 2 points per game player. He's got 8 power play goals, 3 shorthanded goals, and 4 game-winning goals. Austin Thompson, 25-24 equals 49 in 39 games played. He is Mr. Consistency without a doubt. 4 power play goals, 3 shorthanded goals, 6 game-winning goals. The most game-winning goals right now for the Black Bears team is Austin Thompson. Also leads the league as well. I think he shares that category with a few people, but still. Dakota Bond, 12 goals, 36 assists, and 48 points. He's been hot. Once he scored that first goal, like about a month ago, he's been nothing but fire for the Black Bears. He's got 48 points in 36 games played, 5 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, and 4 game-winning goals for Dakota. Probably the defenseman of the year again. Possibly. He's going to have the points for sure. I don't think he's going to stop anytime soon. C-Max, 21-2-1 with a 2.13 goals against average and a .921 save percentage. And Nolan Egbert, 13-2-0 with a 3.40 goals against average and an .884 save percentage. Eggy, I think, is over 40 wins now in his career, C-Max over 40 wins in his career, and Eggy is now over 20. Okay. Special teams, Binghamton power play is ranked 3rd. They have scored 50 power play goals. They finally kind of broke free a little bit last Saturday and scored 3 power play goals. They're scoring at 25% of the game. 25% of their man-up advantage, they're scoring power play goals. Penalty kill, they are ranked 3rd. 27 power play goals against an 86% save kill percentage. And then the Motor City Rockers on the power play are ranked 8th. 29 power play goals for a 20% conversion rate. And the penalty kill is ranked 4th with 24 power play goals against an 84% kill rate for the Rockers. So the Black Bears have the advantage a little bit in the special teams. I think the penalty kill is pretty good for the Rockers, but then we always consider the Rockers a pretty decently good defensive team. I think they probably scored a little bit more this year than they did last year. But that's going to be always kind of like the thing. Once they go onto the penalty kill, they're going to buckle down tighten up everything a little bit. And that's that. All right, so obviously this weekend, 2 promotional games. I think there's going to be 2 promotional jerseys, but I don't know that for sure, so don't quote me on that. But I think it's going to be a fun weekend. Obviously, Superhero Night and Superman jerseys for Friday night, and then the Asha promotion. That's the important one, right? Specialty hockey for everyone. To me, that's just very, very important, and it's a good cause. And proud of Jen O'Brien. She's been around for a long time, and she does all the right things for the right reasons, which is pretty good. All right, so let's get to it. Coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show, he is the owner of the Binghamton Black Bears, and we are very honored to have him here on the show. And anytime I ask him, he always says yes. So coming up next here on the Power Play Post Show is Andreas Johansson. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers.
Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. He is the owner of the Binghamton Black Bears, and we brought him back to talk about some positive things. No negative stuff tonight. We're going to talk nothing but positive stuff. He is Andreas Johansson. Andreas, welcome back to the show. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you, and thank you for the last 40 minutes that the fans are not going to hear. I got to talk to you about some pretty cool stuff. So thank you again for joining us here on the show.
Of course, Bobby. It's always a pleasure coming on.
Let's get right into it. Tyson Kirkby makes national hockey news. NHL.com, the ESPN top 10 list being number 5. When you saw the play yourself, I don't think you were in the arena, but maybe you were. When you saw the play yourself, did you think, whoa, that was going to go where it went?
Well, I thought it should have been number 1, to be honest, on that list. I don't see the other 4, but no, I mean, it wasn't my first thought, like, hey, this is going to go on SportsCenter. But, I mean, I wish they would have said, like, oh, by the way, the team's like, 31-4 or whatever the record is. But, yeah, it was, I didn't realize it till, I don't know if you sent it to me or somebody sent it to me. And they said, oh, you're watching ESPN? I said, usually no. And they were like, well, Kirk's on. And, yeah, it was pretty cool. I think it definitely, I had text after that from people that I know that are involved at, like, a little bit higher leagues.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, you guys made SportsCenter. So that was really cool. I'm sure Kirk's really happy. I don't know what he's going to try, like, next week to beat that, but, yeah, I was really happy for him. And I think the boys really get a kick out of it, and obviously the league's very, very happy with some, real positive. Like you said, it's not, fans entering the ice or, not crazy. Like, it's some really positive hockey-related news.
Yeah, and with what you do in your day-to-day life and some of the relationships that you have in managing, sports and athletes, things of that nature, how important is something like this, being that it's so positive, and maybe it doesn't bring in $1 or $2 over the next couple weeks, but because of the national kind of impact of it, that a lot of people saw around, this is a really positive thing for the league and for the Black Bears, correct?
Well, I mean, I think so. Like, it's a very, very short clip, right? But
sure,
even in that short time, you can kind of see, it wasn't our best attended game because of the weather. I guess fans were surprised it was going to be cold in New York in January. But,
and snowing.
Too bad. Yeah, I mean, who would have thought? I thought it was going to be in the 80s. But yeah, you could see even in that short snippet, like, hey, it's a good rink, it's a good production. Everything looks great, and obviously it's a great goal, right? And they can see it. So like it helps. Like in terms of like what we can use it for, I think it's something that'll go in like marketing decks, probably not just on our side, but I'm sure, across the league, they'll say, hey, as seen on, ESPN and NHL.com, and I'm sure it got picked up by, a million other places after that, right?
Yeah.
So I think in that sense, it definitely helps. And it's something the guys get a kick out of it, right? Like you don't expect to see the Fed on ESPN necessarily. So I think
or NHL.com because let's be honest, the league is not affiliated with the NHL or the ECHL or the AHL in any fashion at the moment, right? But the fact that an NHL writer wrote an article about it and put it on there, that is one of those things where maybe the heads are going to start turning and go, wait a second here, we have a single-A hockey program that is doing things the right way. Maybe we need to take notice, right?
Well, yeah, I think it gets there. Like, I think this helps, in terms of credibility, just because if you Google Binghamton Black Bears, I'm sure those things will now go to the top.
Yeah.
But anytime we get good exposure in any fashion, like whether that's social media or something like this or any type of TV, it helps. Like I have, like you said, I deal with athletes like in my
yes.
day-to-day life a little bit, and like a lot of them, they probably aren't like super educated on what the Fed is, but they do see and they do hear things like in any place like Binghamton that's had AHL hockey before for so long. Like there are people in that town, right, that they know players that now went on to play somewhere else, and they still keep in touch. And one of the topics that they'll discuss is, hey, what's going on with hockey in Binghamton these days, and all the Black Bears are here. Oh, what's that? And then it kind of anytime you can point them to something and say, oh yeah, by the way, like here's the clip on ESPN. I think it helps. I think it helps the league. I think it's like. I wouldn't say legitimizes necessarily because, you turn on ESPN now, it could be a pillow fight or bobsledding from Africa or anything, right? But it's not like always the most like serious sports on there, but it definitely was a cool thing for us to have. And I think the NHL.com article is probably in a way bigger. Like you said, we're not affiliated.
Yeah.
And, the guy actually had to write the article, right? Sports Center, they probably saw, hey, there isn't that much going on today, so let's, here's a great clip that somebody uploaded. EJ credit. I think Brooks called it. Like when as soon as he got down, it's whatever. When he scored a goal, EJ ran into the the video room. So I think timing was crucial there too. So I think EJ definitely gets an assist on that one.
Yeah, when I clipped the clip from obviously the game to put it at the beginning of our weekend wrap-up show that I debuted yesterday, Monday morning or Monday afternoon, I actually left that part in there where, looks like EJ has left his video position to go clip that very quickly because I think there was a realization that, hey, wait a second here, we just saw something pretty special, and we want to get that out to the masses because it is a great marketing tool for the Black Bears, great marketing tool for, obviously, the league, but also the impact was this was the first time in 5 years that the Fed made ESPN coverage, but in a positive way because 5 years ago it was due to Columbus and Carolina kind of mixing it up a little bit too much between the benches and everything. And even though that's fun and kind of like everybody that's a hockey fan probably kind of gets off on that kind of clip a little bit, this is a more positive thing.
Yeah, I agree. Like I think back then it was a little different, with what fans of the Fed found entertaining. Like I think back then they did like it. And it would be kind of funny, it's that I don't think I would like it, but that would be kind of funny. And we've had there's been a couple things that, it's been kind of away from the public eye, like hallways and stuff, not full blown fights like that, but it's been close. But now we'd be more like, oh, okay, they're back at it again. What's going on here, right? So we're very grateful for Kirk. And I think Kirk in general, he's been playing. He was playing in the Coast, it was in Reading, got waived and got claimed by Worcester and decided to stay with us, which I think from, that speaks to, part of it, the league, obviously part of it is Tyson's very happy where he is. He loves playing in Binghamton. I think he loves being the captain of the organization. And I think he's done a tremendous job at, helping to grow the league. But the fact that a guy like him can go and play in the Coast and not just be, 2 minutes a night, killing penalties. Like, he's actually playing, doing well. And I mean, you go through our lineup. I mean, can you pick a few other guys that could play in the coast?
Sure.
You probably. I mean, I think you wouldn't have to try too hard to find guys, but they're just kind of happy where they are.
Yeah, C.J. Stubbs obviously went up. Don Oliveira has played in the coast in the past, went up one for a game this year in Reading. I think Kyle Steffen, he's got the skill level to probably play at the coast level. Blake Tosto is playing in the SP, but I think he's also a guy that with another year or two, he could see some time in the coast. How important, I don't know if it's important for you on a day-to-day operations to be thinking about it, but is there ever a time that you think that it would be important and good for the NHL? I'll say it for the NHL's purpose that there is a 3-tiered minor league pro system where everybody's affiliated in some way based on the fact that it's worked so well for about 100 years in baseball, where there is a 3-tiered single A, double A, triple A minor league system. Do you think that is something that the NHL should really start looking at because it could benefit them in the long run?
Like to affiliate with the Fed or the FP or both?
Yeah.
A fourth.
Oh, absolutely. Like, in other words, because right now it already happens. When an NHL player goes down or retires or gets hurt, you pull from the AHL. That AHL team then pulls from the ECHL affiliate. The ECHL team already is polling either from the SP or from the Fed to bring a couple players up. It could also benefit even more in a marketing way for North American hockey to have the NHL, AHL, ECHL, and the single-A hockey teams be affiliated. It's beneficial to everybody involved.
I mean, I think it's something that could happen, and I think it's much more likely than, it's been in the past if we wanted to go that way. I mean,
Sure.
If you look at the ownership group in Athens, I mean, they own either Rapid City or Sioux City. I don't know the name of the team.
I think 2 teams in ECHL. Yeah.
Actually, 3. Like, they own Rapid City. They own, what's the one in the south? Greensboro or something, right? In the Carolinas.
Yep.
And they own the team that Mathieu is on up in Quebec.
Oh, do they?
They have 3 teams. Yeah, so much for
Three Rivers, I think. 3 Rivers up there?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. I didn't want to pronounce it because it's like a French name. And
I don't know the French version of it. I just know that it's 3 Rivers.
Yeah, you're good enough with it. The Quebec team.
Yep.
But so much for, hey, only the Fed allows multiple team owners, to own the same team. No, it's they own those 3 teams. So, like, it will be the easiest thing in the world right now to have some type of affiliation done. I don't know whether it would benefit us necessarily. I mean, in some ways maybe, but first of all, these are, we can talk about players and all this stuff all day, and I'm happy to do it. I don't have much going on right now, but we don't have a player union, right?
Right.
They do, and I'm not saying that a union would be bad, but as much as the Fed gets criticized for certain things, there are also a lot of advantages with being an independent league and being able to generate revenues the way that you want, and being able to sign not just the best players but also the best guys. Guys
Sure.
that he's a great player, but he's also a great person. He can go out and he's going to go to school, and they're going to, there's that part of it that once you're unionized, that part
kind of goes away a little bit, right?
Yeah, because then you're dealing with not your players. You're dealing with representatives from all the teams, and not all teams are equal in any league, but especially I would say the Fed. I'm
That's
not
fair.
stepping on anybody.
That's fair. So almost a rethinking of the business model would have to happen for something like that to be a possibility, because of right now the business model works so well for a good majority of the teams in the Fed.
Well, yeah. Plus, I don't know what if I was on the NHL side of the table, I'm not sure what their benefit, the effort they would have to go through to sign legally do an affiliation with us or with the SP. It'd be a lot of work for something that clearly happens anyway. If they need a player, they'll call, a coach that they respect, and they'll call, in most cases in our league, it'd be Jersey, right? And they'll say, hey, what you have, and Kirk will go up there, and we encourage that. it's no secret. I don't like guys going to the SP because at this point, like other than maybe perception in some places, I think hockey-wise, I don't think there's any difference. I mean,
well, I think
I don't know, but
I think the Black Bears would beat every single team in the SP right now. I really, truly believe that.
You might be right. To be honest, I mean, it sounds arrogant, but I don't watch the SP. I don't care. Like I'll get updates obviously on how our guys are performing.
Sure.
And I have no animosity towards the SP. Like sometimes I think that fans think that like, oh, the SP and the Fed hate each other. Like maybe they hate us. I don't think so. I could give a whatever less about them. Like we don't. I don't like our guys going to their league, and I think their philosophy is different. I mean, it's very stagnant. It starts growing, but maybe that's all they want, and that's fine. I mean, they got nice buildings.
Mm-hmm.
They got, obviously they have still, I think, probably more players that go to the coast regularly, but I don't know whether it's really better players or if it's that's the way it's always been. I don't know.
I think that's the perception that I think Steve Martinson in Athens and Jersey here in Binghamton are starting to change. That you don't have to just go to the SB to get a player. You can Reading and Adirondack can call Binghamton, and it's a closer drive to get a player from Binghamton to those two ECHL markets. And the other thing that I think is important that Steve Martinson and Brant Sherwood have done a great job in, which helps this cause a little bit more, is that they've built relationships with ECHL teams, and I think that's important as well.
Well, they have, right? And they also, they are respected by coaches both in the coast and the SP, and it actually creates a win-win. Like it's not a secret. Like I never liked guys going. To the coast, I'm totally in favor of it, but I never liked it when guys were going to the SP or whatever, which, if it happens to us now, it's purely based, I think, on, either they have an idea, like, in their head that, like, oh, I think it's still better, and, my agent or my whatever told me I should try it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if we told them, no, you can't go. Like, if you leave, you're not coming back here. All you're doing is you're probably going to drive guys away. Like, while if the arrangement is more, look, we want you here for as long as possible, and we're going to take care of you. But if you get an opportunity to go somewhere and you really want to go, we're not necessarily going to hold you hostage. Like I think Jersey has that relationship with the players, and that's why I kind of stay out of it. Like even Tofto is in the SP. I think Cam Cervone's there. Like those are guys I would like to have back on our team, but. Obviously we replace them with guys that are just as good, right? So there's always new players coming in.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if we would need like a formal arrangement or if we're good just to kind of, I think like you said. I mean, you said Steve and Jersey, and I think those are the two guys that an East Coast coach would call. Like I don't know, maybe there's someone else they'll talk to, but not. Those are probably the two I'd call. Brand.
At the moment, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about attendance. Okay, I think a little bit of maybe something that I said here on this show has driven the Black Bears and the Black Bears fans to get over 4,000. I want to take a tiny bit of credit for this because since the beginning of the Binghamton Black Bears, just 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, whatever you want to call it. Every single year, the attendance has gone up. And there was a couple points that I've made about Binghamton hockey history, and that includes even the 2011 Calder Cup Championship. The attendance actually has dropped after some of these really great years that Binghamton hockey teams have had. In 92-93, the best AHL regular season ever, the attendance went down the next year. In 82-83, when the Whalers went to the Calder Cup, the attendance went down. Even in the Duster years, after one of the really great years they had a very similar year, and then the second year, the attendance has gone down. So winning doesn't always breed, an attendance uphill. And I truly believe that to kind of counteract that norm that has been in Binghamton hockey history, and I have pretty much every number except for 2 home attendance numbers in the history of Binghamton hockey history, I think everybody with the Black Bears, the fans and even your staff there, have really made a determined effort to, number one, get the team over 4,000, which will be the first time since the early days of the Senators that a team has averaged over 4,000 fans, but also at the same time to not go below what they had last year, which was like, I think, 3,958. Your thoughts on the attendance lift this year for the Black Bears?
Well, I mean, I think you nailed it. Like, I remember we did a little dinner before the season with all the staff, players, coaches, everybody, like off ice, everyone, right? And my whole point to the organization was like the only thing that could really stop us is complacency, right? Like, we can't think that the fans will always come because they've always come before, and likewise on the ice, like Scherz's message was the same. Like, we can't think we're always going to win because we did it last year, because now every game against us is, it's game 7, right? Oh, let's beat Binghamton. So you always have to keep working. Like, I wouldn't say coming up with new things, because we're not necessarily doing that. Like, we're kind of trying to repeat what has worked in the past.
Sure.
And obviously we're getting better and better at like figuring out the market and the dates. And, when you go into a new market, you have truly no idea, right?
Yeah.
You can look at what the Devils did, but like the AHL plays so many games that it's kind of, we have a little more luxury of choosing dates.
Right. You don't have to play. You don't have to play those Wednesday games. You don't have to play a lot of Sunday
Monday
games.
Night, or one of these. You play a Monday night after a holiday or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody shows up for that. And we saw that our first year. I mean, it was pretty. Some games. I mean, we didn't do bad the first year, but he definitely wasn't like, a huge success either. Like, it was very up and down, like both on the ice and off the ice. It was league was kind of all over the place. The team was really all over the place. Attendance, we could have 1,000, we could have 4,500. Like, it was just so up and down, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I do think it is. It is it's the guys in the room is kind of where you got to look at. Like, if you look at the players we have, like they're all great players, or they wouldn't be here. But they're all very like likable.
Yeah.
Personalities, right? They all have different backgrounds, different, whatever it is, but they all have the right personality to play in this kind of environment where, like, yes, you are a professional athlete and you are going to live that way. And, like, obviously the more serious it gets, like postseason and stuff, it gets a little bit more, hey, let's close up the door and let's just focus on the results, which, I mean, if you don't do that, then what's the point, right? But
right.
At the same time, like, everybody has bought into the community appeal, like on our side, like to really just get out there and represent Binghamton. And I think that's something that was done. Like, our staff, they've all been there. I mean, EJ came in, I think, second year maybe.
Yeah.
But everybody, and Brooksy came obviously when Rob went to
Adirondack,
right? So, but that was after 1 year. But like, they've all been there long enough. They're all Binghamton people, right? Like me and Brooksy were not, but like we're almost like adopted to Binghamton.
Right.
I mean, I kind of feel like I got the key to the city, right? So I kind of feel like almost local by now. But my point is, like, in a smaller market like that,
yeah,
everybody kind of talks, and like we've always been, I think, pretty like open, and you come into the office or you come to the practice rink or you come to the game, like it's not us and them. Like, if I go here, like I live in Maryland, if I go to a Cats game, if I'm not calling like any contacts or anything, like you're in the stand, I mean, you're not going to talk to Ovechkin. Like, he's a nice guy, but he's not really going to talk to you.
Right.
Nor is anybody else, or the coach doesn't really care what you think. And if you complain on the internet, no one from the organization is going to call you or text you or communicate with you. Like, that's not, because that's just how it works, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
We're not like that. Like, we try to, no matter who you are, like, we want you to feel like you're like a part of this. Like, we all want it together, because it's funny. You go to a game, right? Like you said, there's 4,000 people, but when you look in the stands, like a lot of people, you recognize them, right? Because you've seen them from the beginning. You see them at events. You see them like on, I try not to read social media, but I always do, especially now that we're winning. I like to see what people are saying. Like sometimes, it could be like random, but a lot of the time, someone says, oh, like this person did this or this person did that, and then if it's something I can help, I'll try to answer. Otherwise, I'll text the office and say, hey, like this person, they're saying they had a problem with the ticket. Can you see like where they're sitting? What's going on? Can you figure this out? And like I think a lot of organizations they don't do that, and I think we've kind of built that culture where like if there's a problem, it's your problem, and you just figure it out. And I think the fans have like, even when we have screwed things up, like we do a lot less of that now than we did in the beginning. I think fans have kind of like been all right with it because they kind of know that like we're going to admit that we did wrong, and we might tell you, like we're going to tell you what happened unless it's something where like certain events maybe come to mind where we really couldn't, but for the most part, like we try to make everybody feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting, because right now through 20 games played at home, the team is at 4,088, which is a great number. But I wanted to bring up one fan that I know who I'm going to be talking about. His name is Frank Slack. And in the
Frank,
in the beginning, Frank was because he's an old AHL guy like I am, right? Been here for a very long time, watching the AHL hockey, and he kind of like said, "I'll give you guys 1 year, and if you can prove to me that this is worth watching." And he was one of those AHL elitists, as I we'll call them, a lot of those guys who, watched the AHL and said, only the AHL, it's the AHL or nothing, right? You guys, but you guys won Frank over. And you've talked to Frank and you've had conversations sometimes online, in the public and everything. How good does it feel that you, and I mean, because listen, we got a lot of great kids and new fans that are coming to the games. But how great does it feel for you that you won over a guy who, let's be honest, Frank is Frank. He can be cranky sometimes. He is who he is.
Not Frank.
But
he's not cranky.
But you won him over, and I think it was a conversation that the two of you guys had. And you're the owner of the team. You don't need to talk to any of the fans. I mean, you should talk to the fans, right? Because you're the owner of the team, right? But you don't necessarily have to. But you had that conversation with Frank. And you won him over. The team won him over. Jersey won him over eventually as well. You guys, to me, that's got to have a good feeling that you won a guy like Frank over.
Yeah. I remember with Frank. I think it was during the second season. Yeah, sure. It was like after we made a coaching change, right? Because he wasn't happy. I think with the league, because the league, it's making improvements, but back then it had probably a little more problems. Yeah, and. I think we probably just cut, like either it may have been Powell or MJ or Abbott. I mean, we Jersey cleaned house a little bit when he came in.
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
a lot
absolutely.
of fans didn't like it, and it was the whole fire Sherwood kind of stuff going on, which, it was kind of a tough time, like he had his first coaching job, and, he came in like just wanting to win so bad, and that was the reception. But at the same time, he handled it well. We talked about it because, I mean, I was obviously getting it too, especially with, the Nikita situation wasn't our best time, as an organization. And then going straight on a long road trip where we just got absolutely shellacked, like everywhere we went. That was probably the toughest time we had. But anyways, I'm completely getting off topic. Yeah, I remember that was during one of those periods I talked to Frank, and yeah, he said, I'm not sure about this. I don't really like this. I don't like the coach. I don't like what you're doing. I said, all right, well, it's 0 for 3, so that's not a good start for me. But I tried telling him, I tried to, like, without like throwing players under the bus or anything like that. I tried to tell him, the same as I would do with anybody that asks, I just kind of tell him, like, hey, here's the reason we're doing this and this. And you're right, it's not the AHL, but, like, I can't afford to take the loss an AHL team's taking. And like, they obviously did what they did, but like, there's never going to be AHL again. I mean, the ECHL, it's not going to be any better. I mean, it's the same thing, just more expensive tickets. And I think he kind of bought it, kind of didn't. And that season we did really shape up, I think, towards the end, and we, had the suspension situation been a little bit more, fair, then I think we would have made the finals, because we beat Danbury game 1 at home, and we lose Schmitty came out the game. I think Palmer, and that was when Wally got badly hurt. Right?
Yes.
So then nothing came from it, which it didn't surprise me at all, of course. But we had 2 games, I remember, down in Danbury, very close, and we ended up losing, but we almost could have won. But then I think, obviously, last season, I think we won a lot of people, including Frank, and I've had his back, too. When I thought it was always funny when he would bring his broom and he would sweep and he would chirp the players, and, the arena might give him some, whatever, but I always thought, hey, it's part of hockey. I always had Frank's back. I love Frank, and I talk to him, almost every home game. If I get there early, me and my son, we'll go down the room 5:30 when him and a lot of the hardcore guys, they'll be sitting down the speedy zone, and I'll talk to them for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, let them know what's going on. And I think it makes them feel good that you're getting maybe not inside information, but a little bit of hey, here's what's going on, here's who's going to play tonight. Because at that point, who cares what the lineup's going to be?
Sure.
They probably figure it out anyway.
Yeah.
But I've always tried to do that, and I think everybody within the organization does it to the best of their ability. Connect with the fans, see what are they doing, how's the family, and in return they give us more rope. We trade a player now, we release someone. They're not saying anymore, you need to go. Let's fire Sherwood. They just say, okay, he has a reason. He's won 100 games and lost 4. That's. I'm exaggerating a little bit here.
Yeah.
But, that's. I think that's helped us.
No, I think the stat is correct. We've won 100 games so far this year and lost only 4. That brings me to the final topic I want to bring up with you, the team's performance this year on ice. They are 34-4-1 to be exact, with 98 points. First team to clinch the playoffs so early too. Obviously, we're just past the halfway mark in February, and the team is clicking on every level. Kirkby, Donald Oliveri, Austin Thompson, Connor McAnanima, all leaders in separate categories within the league statistically. Your thoughts on the team's performance through the first 39 games?
It feels like you watch hockey from the 80s or 90s when Soviet played.
Yes.
Where the expectation is always that we're going to win, and that's always been what we said. We want this to be a place where every player feels like they're treated very, very well, but also where the expectation is very, very high, and that obviously they know that, and Jersey's done a great job at finding that balance between where the guys are happy, they're having fun, spend time with each other, but when it's game night, they dial it up. Look at, you could make the argument that some of the games, we haven't even played that well, and we're still winning by a couple, at least a couple goals. We got so much offense. We got the best D in the league. We got great goaltending tandem. C-Max neck and neck with Cavalieri for most of the stats, and I think there's no doubt this year that C-Max is going to be the goaltender of the year, and Kurt's going to be the MVP, and I think Tomer certainly all-star team player.
Yeah.
He's with second or third in the league in scoring, right?
Yeah. Well,
I love it.
People don't.
It's one of these things people don't notice, right? How great Tomer is, and how
I know.
Just watch him, watching the game, watch him go to the net. Look how he gets hit. He goes down on the ice. He doesn't say a word to the opponent. He draws penalties.
Yeah.
He kills penalties. He's so loyal, and it's he's been here now 4 years, right? 3. He came
3 years
in when Gary came in, right? And he's always been one of these guys where he doesn't get a ton of credit, but he's worked so hard. He's such a great team guy, and he puts up a lot more points than what people probably think he does. I don't think if you ask a lot of people who's the second best scorer on the team, I think they would say, oh, it's Ollie or it's Yatesy or Stubbsy, whatever. But it's Tomer, and I'm really happy. Like, I love Tomer. He's so great. Like, he's one of these guys that you just want to have him on your team forever. You know, he's funny. He's nice. He's great with the fans. He's like he's just a great, like, Canadian. I was gonna say farm boy. I don't know, but he's just a great guy.
Definitely not a farm boy where he grew up in Leamington, Canada, but.
He's from Toronto or something. Maybe.
Yeah, he's from the Toronto area. Okay, here's what I want to throw at you about Tomer, because I have brought this up recently because I think it's very important. In the first year, 29 goals, 27 assists. In the second year, 27 goals, 29 assists. He kind of reversed those numbers, right? 56 points both years. This year, 25 goals and 24 assists. There isn't a more consistent player doing everything, playmaking and scoring goals on the team than him. I mean, of course, Tyson's numbers are bigger and whatnot over the last 4 years. But what Tomer has done this year is so impressive. But then you look at Donald Oliveri, 11 goals in 11 of his 18 goals are on the power play. The Dakota Bond has now scored 2 5-on-3 shorthanded goals. It is amazing what these guys have done on this team, and it can't be any surprise that they're 34-4-1.
No, there isn't. I mean, if you look at how deep this team is, right?
Sure.
Like, I don't know exactly what the lineup was last week, but Tomer, Kirk, and Ollie is your top line, right?
Sure.
Or whatever you want to call it. Then you got Yates, Stubbs, and Steph, right? I mean, it's anywhere else in the league, it's the best line by far. It's the three best players, right?
Yeah.
And then you go Fletch, Clarkey, and Rammer. You can go with Mott. I mean, it doesn't.
It's crazy.
With so much choice, right? And defensively too. Like you still win championships on the back end, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we've got Bonner and Stone. I mean, by far the best D pair in the league. I mean, Jesse's like another. He's like Tomer. Like he doesn't necessarily score. I mean, he's a D man, but like he's so solid every season. Like last year, him and Wally, he started out playing together. Then I think it was Jesse and Fitzy, right?
Yeah.
And this year he was with
Cervoni,
right? So we'll see.
And now with Weber,
playing very well with Weebs. Weebs is another guy too, just a great team guy that does so much work. Mm-hmm. And Dion coming in, I think he's coming off the IR here.
Yep, should be
next
probably
couple days. He's recovered, and I mean he's an experienced guy that's won 2-3 cups in the SP. So him playing with E or playing with Perry, those guys too. They're all pulling. We're just so deep.
Yeah.
Like I don't see how anybody's gonna. I don't want to say that because
I know.
In their locker room and go, hey, look at this asshole. But I mean, I'm feeling we played Columbus, that everyone said, oh, watch out. Yeah, we watched out for the first 10 seconds, and then it was done, right?
Yeah.
And I love that game. Like it's funny. People some people complain that we challenged that goal.
Yep.
I went straight to Jersey. I said, no, I love that. I absolutely love it because it's number one, Sirota, who he's another guy too.
I love him.
He's a great player. I mean, like when he came in, I didn't know much about him at first, but then you see him play. I mean, this guy's got such skill. He's another guy that, like, where else does he play on the third line? It's not going to happen.
Well, and we'll end on this note. The team is so good, but unfortunately there is a roster, a limit that you have to have, which is 19, and Jersey's been managing the roster as the best he can. You guys just traded Khade Henry, obviously, who is a outstanding player himself in his rookie year down to Monroe to play for the Moccasins. And, it's not an easy decision, right? When you and this is all on Jersey to make the decision. I'm sure there's some input from you on it, but again, it's like that's a hard decision because he's a good player, and he's a player very similar to Zach Sirota, where it's energy and just speed and just the physicality of him, and you got to trade him away, and that's a tough thing to do, especially, but like you said, it's a deep team.
Yeah, you got to do what's right for the players too, right? And I think you got to look at, as we're getting into, closer to the postseason, it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah.
You got to look at what experience guys have of playing in a certain system, and you mentioned Sirota, and I mean you can look at some of the guys that are in and out of the lineup a little more. I mean, obviously, he was going to be one of them that we parted ways with, right?
Sure.
And we have a good relation with Gary Gills now and Monroe and Moscow. Like, we have a good relation, and obviously we knew that wherever Khade goes, he'd probably be top line players. So the last thing we wanted to do was to kind of run out of options and have to waive him to bring back Dion off the IR or make some other moves. So the last thing we wanted to do was waive him, and then tomorrow he's in Watertown or he's in Danbury or he's in wherever. While Monroe, I mean, they're in the playoff hunt, and he's going to help them get there. But we're fairly unlikely to play them.
Yeah.
We also know that he's going to a good place. Like, we know that they got a good setup there. We know Gary's a good coach.
Yeah.
He's going to be happy, and ultimately for him, it's a question of how do you develop as a player? Do you want to play every second, third game, and play 7-8 minutes a night, or do you want to go somewhere
where you can crack the top six?
And be a leading player. I mean, look at across the league. Look at Gamsatov, Noah Robinson. Like, we've had so many guys that have come out of here.
Well, Brody Thornton has done great this year.
Great player. We knew Brody had a lot of talent.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a little bit of a situation where we could have maybe protected you if you were willing to be here and be a number 5, 6 D man. But if you want to be the top guy, then right now that wasn't going to happen here. There's no hard feelings. Every player is different. But it's tough when a player leaves. But fans understand. The players understand. We wish him the best, and I think he was great. I think he has a lot of talent. He's a great shot, great skill, and I'm sure he's going to help Gary. And at the same time, whether it's Dion or whoever comes in off the IR, they got to come right into the lineup Friday night and be ready to go.
Andreas, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you. I know I take you away from your family for an hour and a half almost every time we do one of these things, but we get a lot of...
That's my own fault, though. Like, you actually are pretty prepared. I'm just not. I'm just talking, so no problem.
Yeah, I really do appreciate it, but I think it's great for the fans to be able to get to hear from you. It's great for my ratings. You always are near the top of the ratings when it comes to coming on the Power Play Post Show, so I always appreciate the spike there. I don't know if it's because you have friends in high places that are listening to make sure that you're not saying anything wrong. That's okay. They're all welcome to listen as well. But it's truly a pleasure to always get to have these conversations with you. We don't always see each other at the games because I'm usually up in the press box, and you kind of stay away from the press box and whatnot, which is okay.
I used to have the stamina to keep walking up there all the time. No, I like to, I let Brooksy and Cole, they do a great job up there, so I'll let them do their thing, and I'll see them after the game, but I'm happy to come up and see you sometime up there.
Well, every once in a while, if I'm running a little late, I see you downstairs when you were talking about Frank. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And the problem with us probably running into each other at the arena is that we probably talk way too much.
That's the problem. That's kind of my fault, right? I always take everybody's time up too much.
No.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime I'm on the show. Hopefully, we'll talk before the finals again.
Oh, yes.
Like we did last year, and then after we win the cup, we'll talk about that.
Oh,
and,
yeah, absolutely.
One more time around the block, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's hope so. I mean, obviously the Black Bears are doing great, and he is Andreas Johansson. He is the owner of the Binghamton Black Bears, and we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's BinghamtonHockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. I want to really thank, special thanks, obviously, to Andreas Johansson for, answering the call and coming on here on the Power Play Post Show. Definitely appreciate him. He gives me so much great information and so many, obviously, great, discussions that we can share with you here on the Power Play Post Show, which is pretty cool. There are some things that he and I talked about that didn't make the cut, and some of it is because it needs to kind of stay private. But it's one of those things where, I think he trusts me enough, and it allows me to see a positive future for the FPHL. Things that they are trying to do and looking to do, and some changes I think that fans and some people are going to really like for the future. So I think that's pretty cool. So again, I want to thank him for coming on the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody who, liked and shared some of the stuff, especially the Tyson Kirkby stuff. You guys did a great job just engaging in on that, which is pretty cool. And, of course, Khade Henry heading down to Monroe. Let's hope that he gets down there soon and gets acclimated with the team and scores a couple goals for the Moccasins before the end of the season. All right. The Power Play Post Show is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on whichever platform you listen to your podcast and subscribe. Please join the Power Play Post Show Facebook group. Just go to Facebook and search Power Play Post Show. And check out BinghamtonHockey.net for all your Binghamton hockey and information and curiosity. And thank you to Rob Leopoldos, our MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, and Black Bears owner, Andreas Johansson. I am Bob Howard. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you probably on Sunday with our weekend wrap-up show right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.